After Jake's sacrifice, the Zoltrians began rebuilding their city with renewed spirit and determination. Every citizen worked tirelessly, inspired by the bravery Jake had shown. Kira, now viewed as a respected leader, guided her people forward, focusing on unity and strength. Weeks passed, and slowly the city rose from ruins stronger than ever. The monument built in Jake's honor stood proudly in the city's center, a constant reminder of the human who changed their destiny. People visited daily, quietly expressing gratitude and remembering the courage they'd learned from him. One morning, Kira received a startling report from the scouts. A Varkan envoy was approaching the city, carrying a white flag signaling peace. Uneasy yet hopeful, Kira prepared to meet the envoy. Determined to protect her people and Jake's legacy, the envoy arrived cautiously, unarmed, and clearly anxious. He introduced himself as Lieutenant Varric, explaining his purpose respectfully. "We have come to offer peace," he began softly. "Your victory showed us the true strength of your people. We wish no more conflict." Kira studied him carefully, measuring his sincerity. "Your people cause much suffering here," she reminded him gently but firmly. Varric nodded solemnly. "We know this. Our leaders have changed. They see war brings only pain. We want to learn from you and build a new future, side by side." Kira remained cautious but felt hope rising. "I must discuss this with our council. You may wait safely here." The Zoltrian council deliberated deeply, considering the offer seriously. Eventually, they agreed to pursue peace but remain careful. Trust would need to be built slowly, step by step. Days later, a formal peace meeting occurred in the city's plaza. Zoltrians and Varkans gathered quietly, watching their leaders carefully. Kira stepped forward confidently, her voice clear and calm. "Peace is a path we choose together," she began earnestly. "Our people know too well the price of war. We lost much, but through courage and unity, we found strength. We are willing to share this strength and build peace with you." Varric nodded gratefully, speaking sincerely. "We honor the sacrifices you made. The bravery of your people and your human hero showed us our errors. We promise to respect your strength and friendship." The crowd watched silently, emotions visible. On their faces, hope, fear, relief. Slowly, the two leaders stepped closer, shaking hands in symbolic agreement. A wave of quiet relief spread through both groups. Peace had begun. As days turned into weeks, the Zoltrians and Varkans worked carefully to build trust. Together, they repaired damaged areas, exchanged knowledge, and learned about each other's culture. Small misunderstandings were resolved peacefully. Each side committed to open communication. Kira spent many hours with Varric, discussing leadership and shared goals. She noticed changes in the Varkans, who now value peace and cooperation over power and conquest. Each day, trust between them grew stronger, building a solid foundation for a lasting alliance. One evening, Kira visited Jake's monument alone, reflecting quietly. "You will be proud, Jake," she whispered softly, smiling gently. "You showed how to be brave and strong, to fight for peace. Now, we walk that path because of you." Varric approached respectfully, noticing her quiet moment. "Your hero inspired us all," he said gently. "Our people will forever remember his courage." Kira nodded gratefully, acknowledging his sincerity. His legacy is now ours to protect. Together, they returned to their tasks, continuing to strengthen the alliance. Education exchanges began, with Zoltrian teachers visiting Varkan schools and vice versa. Both cultures flourished, united by a shared desire for peace and growth. One evening, a message arrived unexpectedly from Earth. Human leaders expressed deep gratitude and pride for Jake's bravery. They wished to visit, to honor their hero, and strengthen bonds with both Zoltria and Varka. Excitement and pride spread quickly through the city. Preparations began swiftly, everyone eager to welcome their new human friends. Soon, the day arrived, and human delegates landed respectfully, warmly greeted by Zoltrians and Varkans alike. During a special ceremony, human representatives approached. Jake's monument solemnly, expressing deep gratitude and respect. Jake showed the universe humanity's greatest strength. The human leader spoke passionately. His sacrifice will forever symbolize courage, unity, and friendship. Kira stood proudly beside the human delegates, deeply moved by their sincere respect. She spoke warmly, her voice steady with pride and emotion. Jake taught us all the power of courage and unity. His legacy lives within each of us, guiding us toward a peaceful future. The gathering ended with a united moment of silence, honoring Jake and all who sacrificed for peace. As the crowd slowly dispersed, bonds of friendship and respect had grown. Even stronger between the three races in the weeks that followed. Trade and cultural exchanges flourished among the three worlds. Zoltria, Varka, and Earth each benefited greatly, learning and growing together. Jake's spirit seemed present in every exchange, a constant reminder of the courage and sacrifice required to build peace. Kira, reflecting one evening at the city's edge, felt deeply grateful. We faced darkness, but together we found light, she said softly, smiling gently as she looked toward the stars. Thanks to you, Jake, we have become more than we ever dreamed possible. Varric joined her quietly, sharing the peaceful moment. Our peoples have learned so much, he agreed softly. We know now the value of friendship and bravery. Jake's example changed us forever. Together, they stood silently, looking into the star-filled sky, knowing their worlds had been forever changed. The future was bright with possibility, guided by the courage, unity, and friendship Jake had shown them all. Jake rose before dawn, quietly preparing himself for another difficult day. Though the Zoltrians had won an important battle, he knew the war was far from finished. Stepping outside, he found Kira already awake, quietly organizing teams to rebuild defenses and gather resources. Morning, Jake, she greeted him softly, determination clear in her tired eyes. Morning, Kira, Jake replied warmly, proud of her resilience. How is everyone holding up? Exhausted, she admitted honestly. But their spirit is strong. They believe in themselves now, thanks to you. No, Jake said gently, thanks to all of us. Together, they walked through the city, inspecting damage and encouraging their teams. Repairs progressed swiftly, each Zoltrian determined to protect their home. Jake saw unity everywhere he looked, a far cry from the hesitant. Mocking people he'd first met. Around midday, scouts returned urgently with troubling news. The Varkans were assembling a massive mothership, capable of devastating the city with a single strike. We need to destroy that ship, Jake said firmly, gathering his closest fighters. If we don't, nothing we've done will matter. Plans were quickly made, though Jake knew the risk was immense. He gathered Kira and a small team of brave Zoltrians, carefully preparing for their most dangerous mission yet. We'll infiltrate the mothership, Jake explained calmly. Our goal is to plant explosives in critical areas. If successful, their entire fleet will be crippled. The Zoltrians listened closely, courage evident in their determined eyes. None questioned the danger. Jake felt immense pride standing with these brave individuals, now friends he deeply respected. Under the cover of darkness, Jake's small team moved silently toward the enemy's landing zone. Avoiding patrols, they reached a small transport shuttle. Quietly they boarded, swiftly disabling enemy guards. Stay alert, Jake whispered cautiously, piloting the shuttle toward the massive mothership hovering ominously in the sky. Docking unnoticed, they moved swiftly and silently through shadow corridors, carefully planting explosives. Jake directed the team efficiently, their training and courage clear as they operated flawlessly under pressure. Suddenly, an alarm blared throughout the ship. Enemy soldiers appeared from all directions, forcing Jake and his team into fierce combat. Keep moving, Jake shouted, leading his fighters deeper into the ship, closer to their final target, the main control room. The fight grew intense, each corridor fiercely contested. Yet Jake's team pressed forward, determination pushing them through exhaustion. and pain. Kira fought bravely beside Jake, her quick thinking and courage invaluable. At last, they reached the control room, sealing the heavy doors behind them. Jake moved quickly, setting the final explosives. "We don't have long," he warned, urgency clear in his voice. "Prepare to retreat quickly once we finish." But as he completed the task, enemy forces began breaking through the sealed doors. Realizing escape would be nearly impossible, Jake turned urgently to his team. "You have to get out now," he commanded firmly. "Use the escape pods. I'll hold them back." Kira stared at him in shock, her eyes wide with fear. "We can't leave you, Jake." "You have to," Jake said softly, determined and calm. "You must lead your people. They need you." Tears filled Kira's eyes, but she nodded understanding. "We will never forget you," she whispered. "Go," Jake urged gently. "Make sure our sacrifices mean something." Kira and the others moved quickly, escaping toward the pods. Jake stood alone, preparing for one final battle, buying precious time for his friends. The enemy burst through, fierce and angry, determined to stop him. Jake fought bravely, strength fueled by determination and purpose. Each moment counted as his allies moved closer to safety. Finally, weakened and overwhelmed, Jake stumbled backward, activating the detonator. Just as the enemy reached him, the mothership rocked violently, explosions tearing through its core. Kira watched silently from the escaping shuttle, grief and pride filling her heart as the massive ship erupted into a brilliant fireball. "Jake," she whispered softly, tears streaming down her face, "you gave us everything." Back in the city, Zoltrians watched in awe as the enemy mothership exploded spectacularly. Cheers erupted, joy mixed with sorrow as they understood Jake's ultimate sacrifice. In the following days, the remaining Varkan forces retreated, defeated and demoralized. Zoltria was safe, its freedom secured by the courage of a human soldier who had become their greatest hero. Kira stood quietly at the city's center, watching the Zoltrians gather to honor Jake. They built a beautiful monument in his memory, a lasting symbol of courage, unity, and friendship. She spoke softly, addressing the assembled crowd, her voice strong despite her grief. "Jake taught us courage and showed us strength we never knew we had. He believed in us, fought for us, and ultimately gave his life so we could be free. We will never forget him." The crowd echoed her words solemnly, heads bowed respectfully. Jake's legacy would forever live in their hearts, a testament to the strength found in unity and bravery. In the quiet moments that followed, Kira remained near the monument, remembering Jake's words and kindness. She knew their world would heal, guided by the courage he had given them. And though he was gone, Jake's spirit would forever guide the Zoltrians toward peace and strength. Jake awoke with a start, sensing the urgency in the air around him. The city was quiet, too quiet. He stood quickly, dressing in his uniform and stepping outside his small quarters. The streets were empty, but he noticed anxious faces peering. From windows. Kira approached, worry clear in her eyes. "Jake, something's wrong. Our scouts report the Varkans are preparing for a massive attack. It seems they're bringing everything they have left." Jake nodded, understanding the severity. "Gather everyone. We need to review our defenses one last time." Soon, the plaza filled with determined but anxious Zoltrians. Jake stood before them, calm and confident, his voice steady. "Today, the Varkans will throw their greatest strength at us," he said clearly. "They think they can crush us easily, but we've shown them they are wrong. We have courage and unity, things they can't understand or defeat easily." The Zoltrians listened closely, drawing strength from his words. Jake continued, "Hold your positions, follow the plan, and stay calm. Together, we will protect your city." Teams quickly dispersed, checking traps, weapons, and hidden tunnels. Jake moved swiftly through the groups, providing guidance and encouragement. Each Zoltrian he passed seemed stronger, more focused. The morning air thickened with tension. Then, Finally, the enemy advanced. A massive wave of Varkan soldiers marched toward the city. Their heavy armor glinting ominously in the sunlight got the first line of Zoltrian defense met them bravely, fighting fiercely, but quickly retreating as planned. Jake had instructed them carefully, do not stay and fight too long. Fall back and confuse the enemy. Traps sprang up suddenly, explosions and obstacles slowing the enemy advance. But the Varkans pressed forward relentlessly, their heavy weapons, destroying barricades and buildings. Jake led a small, agile team, moving quickly through the tunnels beneath the city. They emerged behind enemy lines, creating chaos and confusion. Small but effective strikes weakened the enemy's rear forces, disrupting their plans. Yet despite their bravery, the enemy pushed forward steadily. Jake could see the pressure mounting on his fighters. He quickly devised another tactic. We need to draw them into the city's heart, where we have the greatest advantage, Jake said urgently to Kira. Lead your team to the plaza. Signal the others to do the same. Kira nodded without hesitation, moving swiftly to carry out his orders. Within moments, the Zoltrians withdrew from outer positions, regrouping centrally. The Varkans, sensing victory, followed aggressively, unaware they were entering a trap dot at Jake's signal. Hidden explosives detonated, blocking enemy escape routes. Zoltrians emerged from their hidden tunnels, striking quickly, creating confusion among the trapped soldiers. The battle became intense, hand-to-hand combat filling the streets. Jake moved through the chaos, fighting bravely alongside his allies. He saw Kira nearby, bravely leading a group that successfully pushed back enemy fighters. Suddenly, Jake noticed a group of enemy soldiers breaking through towards the council building, aiming directly for the leadership. He knew losing the council would shatter the Zoltrian resistance. Kira, protect the counselors, Jake shouted urgently. She immediately responded, rallying her group and rushing to intercept the attackers. Jake gathered a small force quickly, pursuing another enemy group heading towards their communications hub. If the hub was destroyed, their coordination would collapse. Arriving just in time, Jake's group fought desperately to defend the critical building. The battle was fierce, enemy numbers overwhelming. Jake rallied his fighters, leading by example, his courage inspiring them to push beyond their limits. Just when it seemed the enemy would succeed, Zoltrian reinforcements arrived, led by Kira. Her team, successful in protecting the council, had quickly regrouped to aid Jake. Together, they forced the attackers back, securing the hub once more. Jake paused briefly, breathing heavily but smiling, gratefully at Kira. You always show up at the right moment, Jake said appreciatively. We learn from the best, Kira replied with determination. Matching his smile, the battle raged on, with both sides weary yet unwilling to yield. Hours passed, every moment a struggle for survival. The plaza filled with smoke, noise, and determination as both sides fought fiercely. Finally, as the sun began setting, the enemy's resolve weakened. Their numbers dwindled, soldiers retreating chaotically. The Zoltrians pressed their advantage, pushing the invaders out of their city entirely. A great cheer erupted throughout the plaza. Jake felt immense pride watching the Zoltrians celebrate their hard-earned victory. Kira approached, tired but radiant with joy. Jake, we did it, she said softly, voice filled with awe and gratitude. You did it, Jake corrected warmly. Your people fought bravely. This victory belongs to every Zoltrian who stood and fought. Despite their victory, Jake knew they couldn't rest yet. The Varkans would regroup again, angry and more determined. He quickly organized groups to strengthen defenses, repair damage, and care for wounded. As night fell, Jake and Kira stood together, overlooking the battered yet resilient city. Fire still smoldered, and many buildings lay in ruins, but the spirit of the Zoltrians remained strong. We've come so far, Kira said quietly thoughtful. It's hard to believe we once doubted ourselves. Belief is powerful, Jake said gently. Believing in ourselves and each other is the most important weapon we have. Kira nodded, understanding fully. Your people must be very proud of you, Jake. You've done so much for us. Jake looked at her seriously, sincerity in his eyes. Everything we've achieved was because your people chose to fight. True strength comes from within. I'm proud just to stand with you. Kira smiled warmly, the bond of trust and friendship clear between them. Together, they turned back to the city, knowing their work wasn't over, but confident they could face whatever came next. That night, the Zoltrians rested briefly, recovering their strength, knowing tomorrow would bring fresh challenges. Yet, with Jake's steady presence and their own newfound bravery, they felt ready to face anything. Jake woke early, feeling tired but determined. The previous day's battle had been tough, and the enemy was surely planning their next attack. He knew the Zoltrians had found new courage, but he also knew the real challenge was yet to come. He stepped outside into the cool morning air, finding many Zoltrians already working hard to strengthen their defenses. They were building barricades, setting up hidden traps, and gathering supplies for the fight ahead. The fear that had once filled their faces was now replaced by steady determination. Kira approached Jake, looking tired but alert. "Good morning." "Jake, we've organized teams to patrol and secure our supplies. Others are setting traps near important paths." "You're doing well," Jake said warmly, offering her a reassuring smile. "Your people are learning fast. We need to keep moving forward. The Varkans will not underestimate us again." Kira nodded, understanding the seriousness of his words. "We will be ready, Jake. We won't let them take our home." Throughout the day, Jake moved among the groups, giving advice, encouragement, and guidance. He showed them how to create effective barricades using simple materials, taught them signals for quick communication, and explained ways to avoid enemy patrols. Each lesson strengthened their resolve and made Jake increasingly proud of their efforts. As the day progressed, scouts reported new enemy movements. The Varkans were regrouping, gathering their forces just beyond the city limits. They had learned from their mistakes and were preparing a powerful new assault. Jake quickly gathered his team leaders. "We need to be prepared. They know our tricks now, so we must be smarter. We will set up multiple lines of defense. When one line is threatened, we will fall back to the next, keeping the enemy confused and off balance." The Zoltrians listened carefully, nodding in agreement. They trusted Jake completely now, understanding the strength of human strategy and courage. As evening fell, the Varkans attacked again. This time, their approach was careful, measured. They sent drones ahead, scouting for traps, while their soldiers advanced cautiously behind. Jake knew their previous tactics wouldn't work as effectively this time, but he was ready. "Fall back," Jake shouted as the first line of defense was breached. Zoltrians moved quickly and orderly, retreating to the next barricade, always following Jake's instructions. The battle was fierce, each side taking losses. Despite their brave resistance, Jake saw the pressure increasing. The Varkans pushed relentlessly, slowly gaining ground. Suddenly, Kira called urgently to Jake. "They've broken through near the eastern gate. We need help." Jake immediately rushed to the trouble spot, leading a small group of fighters. They arrived to see the enemy advancing aggressively, their powerful weapons causing heavy damage. "Stay low and move fast," Jake ordered, showing his team how to approach carefully. Using small improvised explosives, they launched a surprise attack, slowing the enemy advance temporarily. Yet the Varkans adapted quickly, reorganizing and pushing harder. Jake knew this fight required a bigger risk. He turned to Kira urgently. "We need to draw their attention away from here. Can your people create a big distraction near the central plaza?" Kira hesitated only briefly before nodding confidently. "We'll handle it." Jake watched with admiration as Kira quickly organized the diversion. Within minutes, a loud explosion and bright lights erupted near the city center, pulling enemy attention away from Jake's position. Taking advantage of the distraction, Jake led his fighters forward, reclaiming lost ground. They fought fiercely, pushing back the enemy soldiers who had been caught off guard by the sudden change. Exhausted but determined, Jake and his team regrouped after driving the enemy back to the city outskirts. Kira returned shortly, breathing heavily from her successful mission. "It worked, Jake," she said proudly, her voice filled with relief. The enemy was completely surprised. "You did well," Jake praised sincerely, grateful for her bravery and quick thinking. "But they won't fall for it again. We need another plan, quickly." They gathered once more, quickly devising new strategies. This time, Jake suggested creating hidden underground passages to move safely and secretly around the city. Kira enthusiastically agreed, knowing the city layout perfectly. Working through the night, the Zoltrians dug tunnels, reinforcing them carefully. By morning, a network of hidden routes connected strategic points around the city. As dawn broke, enemy scouts again tested the city defenses. This time, the Zoltrians used their new passages, emerging behind enemy lines to launch sudden attacks before quickly retreating underground. Confusion spread among the Varkans, their once calm soldiers now uncertain and fearful. Jake watched proudly as his allies grew more confident, their quick strikes keeping the enemy unsettled and wary. Yet he knew the fight was far from over. The Varkans still outnumbered them and would eventually regroup. Late that afternoon, scouts reported disturbing news. A large enemy reinforcement was on the way, including heavy armor and more powerful weapons. "We need to take out their command center," Jake told Kira urgently. "If we disrupt their leadership, they'll lose coordination." Kira agreed immediately. Together, they carefully planned a risky assault. Selecting a small, stealthy team, they used their tunnels to reach the enemy command post located just beyond the city. Moving quietly under the cover of approaching darkness, Jake and his team reached the enemy location undetected. From their hiding spot, Jake signaled the group forward, carefully timing their attack. They struck swiftly, surprising the enemy soldiers. In the chaos, Jake spotted the enemy commander, a large and intimidating figure directing his forces. Knowing the mission's success depended on taking down the leader, Jake moved quickly, confronting him directly. The two fought fiercely, evenly matched despite the commander's superior strength and advanced armor. Finally, using skill and determination, Jake found an opening, disabling the commander's suit. With their leader defeated, the remaining enemy soldiers panicked, fleeing in disarray. Jake's team quickly destroyed the enemy's equipment, ensuring they could no longer coordinate their attack effectively. They returned triumphantly to the city, welcomed by cheers from the grateful Zoltrians. Despite the celebrations, Jake knew the battle was not yet over. The enemy was weakened, but still dangerous. Looking out over the exhausted but determined faces of the Zoltrians, Jake felt renewed confidence. Together, they had faced impossible odds and emerged stronger. Jake understood clearly that their greatest strength came from unity and courage, not from technology alone. As night fell once more, Jake knew the real test still awaited. But with every challenge overcome, their chances improved. He smiled quietly, knowing they were ready for whatever came next. Jake looked out at the night sky filled with countless Varkan ships hovering silently, their lights casting a harsh glow over the frightened city below. He knew this would not be an easy battle, but humans have faced worse odds before. The Zoltrians watched him carefully, waiting for his next move, their eyes wide with fear but also growing hope. "Listen carefully," Jake began, speaking calmly and clearly so all could hear. "The Varkans rely heavily on technology. If we face them directly, they will overpower us quickly. But we have something they don't expect: creativity and surprise." The Zoltrians murmured among themselves, unsure. Arlen stepped forward, his voice shaky. "How can we possibly surprise them? Their sensors see everything." Jake nodded patiently. "Their sensors see advanced threats. But we can confuse them with simpler tactics. We will use traps, distractions, and quick movements. They will never expect low-tech attacks from a high-tech society like yours." Slowly, the Zoltrians began to understand. Jake organized them into small groups, assigning each group specific tasks. Some would prepare hidden traps in narrow streets, while others would use their knowledge of the city to to create escape paths and hidden tunnels. Many Zoltrians, despite their initial doubts, began to move eagerly, seeing the possibility of resistance. For the first time, Kira remained close to Jake, quickly proving herself an invaluable helper. She moved swiftly, guiding teams through the maze-like streets and reassuring those still uncertain. "Jake," Kira said softly, approaching him after organizing another group. "Why do you believe we can win when our technology can't stop them?" Jake smiled, gently placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Because victory isn't always about technology. It's about courage and determination. Humans learned this a long time ago, in many difficult wars." Kira looked thoughtful, absorbing his words. "Your people must be very strong." "Not always," Jake admitted honestly. "But we learned strength comes from unity and determination. That's what I'm seeing in your people right now." Kira smiled, clearly encouraged by his words, and returned to help her group. As dawn broke, the Varkins finally made their move. Landing craft descended slowly, filling the air with a deep hum. Massive soldiers, heavily armored and intimidating, stepped onto the city streets, confident in their superiority. The Zoltrians initially panicked, but Jake quickly reassured them. "Remember your tasks. Follow the plan and stay calm." The first wave of Varkins moved confidently down the main street, their powerful weapons ready. Suddenly, a hidden wire snapped, releasing hundreds of small metal balls onto the street. The Varkins, startled, struggled to keep their footing, slipping and stumbling wildly. "Now!" Jake shouted. A group of Zoltrians quickly unleashed nets from above, entangling the confused soldiers. Several others used simple weapons to disable their suits. Cheers erupted from hidden groups of Zoltrians as the enemy was defeated with surprising ease. But Jake knew the fight had just begun. More Varkins arrived, this time moving cautiously. The enemy leader, a tall Varkin commander, emerged confidently from his craft, barking orders. "They learn quickly," Jake warned. "We need to adapt as well." Jake led another team, moving silently, through hidden tunnels beneath the city. They emerged quietly behind the Varkin lines, using surprise attacks to create chaos and confusion. Simple smoke bombs and distractions disrupted enemy communication, giving the Zoltrians a much-needed advantage. However, the Varkins soon regrouped, unleashing drones that scoured the city, pinpointing resistance positions. Jake saw the danger and knew he had to act quickly. "Kira, we need to disable those drones," Jake said urgently. "Do your people have anything that could interfere with their signals?" Kira thought quickly, her eyes lighting up. "Our communications center can disrupt signals. It's underground, near the central plaza." "Lead the way," Jake said firmly. Quickly, together Jake, Kira, and a small team moved swiftly through side streets and alleys, avoiding detection by drones and enemy patrols. The journey was tense, every corner potentially hiding danger. At the communication center, Kira quickly activated the systems. She worked efficiently, despite the noise of distant fighting and the growing tension. "Almost there," she said, her voice tight with concentration. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the hallways. Varkin soldiers burst through the doors, weapons aimed at Jake and the small team. "Hold them off," Jake ordered, quickly moving to shield Kira as she continued her critical work. The small group fought bravely, using improvised weapons and their newfound courage to withstand the heavily armed enemy. Jake fought fiercely, using his combat training and determination to protect the Zoltrians. Just as the enemy seemed ready to overwhelm them, Kira shouted triumphantly, "It's done!" Instantly, the drones faltered, losing control and crashing harmlessly throughout the city. The Varkin soldiers, momentarily distracted, were quickly overwhelmed and defeated by Jake and his team. Breathing heavily, Jake turned to Kira, smiling proudly. "Great work. You saved countless lives." Kira smiled gratefully, her eyes bright with newfound confidence. "No, Jake. You showed us how to save ourselves." Across the city, Zoltrians, inspired by Jake's leadership and bravery, rallied with fresh determination. Using tactics Jake had taught them, they continued to outsmart the Varkans, gradually turning the tide of battle. By evening, exhausted but hopeful, Jake gathered the Zoltrians in the main plaza. They were no longer fearful or laughing at human weakness. Instead, they looked at Jake with admiration and gratitude. "We fought hard today," Jake said, speaking with sincere respect for his allies. "But this is only the beginning. The Varkans will return stronger and smarter. We must be ready." The Zoltrians nodded solemnly, now fully understanding the seriousness of the struggle ahead. Jake felt pride seeing their resolve, knowing they had come far from the frightened people who had laughed at him just the day before. As night fell once again, Jake looked up at the darkening sky, knowing the hardest battles still awaited. Yet, with the Zoltrians united and determined, he knew they could face any challenge. Jake stepped out of the small shuttle onto the landing pad, squinting slightly at the bright orange sunlight on planet Zoltria. He adjusted his heavy uniform and took a deep breath of alien air. It smelled strange, like fresh plants mixed with metal. He glanced around, observing tall buildings of shimmering glass and silver, clearly far beyond anything humans had constructed. Nearby, a group of Zoltrians waited. They were taller than humans, slender, with pale blue skin and large eyes that glittered with intelligence and curiosity. Jake noticed their thin arms and legs, seeming almost fragile. They wore flowing robes of vibrant colors, contrasting sharply with his plain military uniform. "Look, who's here to conquer us?" one Zoltrian laughed softly, looking at his companions. They all began to chuckle quietly, clearly amused at Jake's appearance. Jake pretended not to hear, straightening his back and approaching them confidently. "Hello," Jake said, keeping his voice friendly but firm. "I'm Jake, here from Earth on behalf of our joint diplomatic mission." The Zoltrians glanced at each other again, amusement still clear on their faces. Finally, one stepped forward. "Welcome, human," he said lightly. "My name is Arlen, advisor to our leader, Counselor Vesta. Please, come with us." Jake nodded politely and followed as they led him away from the landing area into the bustling city. Along the way, he caught many Zoltrians staring and whispering. He realized quickly he was viewed as a curiosity, perhaps even a joke. Determined not to let their mocking affect him, Jake kept his expression calm and steady. Inside a large hall, filled with ornate decorations and advanced technology, Jake met Counselor Vesta. She stood taller than the others, her robe shimmering purple and silver. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, studied him carefully. "So, you are the representative from Earth," Vesta said slowly, her tone polite but distant. "We did not expect your people to send someone so unassuming. Appearances can be deceiving." Jake responded respectfully but firmly. "We humans may look simple, but we have much to offer." Vesta smiled, but it felt cold. "We shall see," she said softly. "Tonight we have prepared a feast to welcome you. Do not be late." As Jake left, he overheard a few Zoltrians whispering again, laughter mingled within their words. Clearly, they found the idea of a human soldier amusing. Jake pushed the thought aside. He knew his mission here was important, no matter how lightly the Zoltrians viewed it. That evening, the feast was grand, tables overflowing with food Jake had never seen before. Fruits glowed softly, and colorful liquids bubbled gently and tall. Glasses. The hall filled with Zoltrians, elegantly dressed, all glancing at Jake with obvious curiosity and amusement. Arlen approached Jake with a gentle smirk. "Enjoying yourself, human?" Jake nodded, keeping his tone even. "Thank you, yes. Everything is impressive." "I imagine your Earth doesn't have anything quite like this," Arlen continued, his voice dripping with superiority. "We may not have your technology, but we have our own strengths," Jake replied simply. Arlen laughed lightly, clearly unconvinced. Jake ignored the slight, scanning the room quietly. Something felt off, though he couldn't explain it clearly. He noticed subtle tension in the air, the faintest hint that something was wrong. As Jake considered this, alarms suddenly blared loudly through the hall. Panic erupted immediately among the Zoltrians. They looked terrified, glancing around in confusion. What's happening? Jake asked quickly, stepping forward with determination. Arlen's confident facade had vanished, replaced with sheer fear. It's the Varkans, he stammered. They've come to invade. Jake immediately moved to a nearby window, looking up. High in the sky, massive ships hung ominously, blocking the sun. Even from this distance, Jake recognized the aggressive design typical of the feared Varkans. We must surrender, Arlen whispered weakly. We cannot fight them. You haven't even tried yet, Jake said firmly, turning back to face the frightened Zoltrians. Your city might have great technology, but if you want to survive, you need a plan. What plan could a human possibly offer us? Another Zoltrian said bitterly, Your kind have no real power. You underestimate us, Jake responded, voice steady, with quiet confidence. Humans know how to fight against impossible odds. Trust me, and we can face them together. Several Zoltrians exchanged unsure glances. Counselor Vesta approached, her expression grave. You speak boldly for someone with no power here, she said cautiously. But perhaps boldness is exactly what we need now. Jake met her gaze directly, sincerity evident in his voice. Give me a chance. I'll show you what we can do. After a moment, Vesta nodded slowly. Very well, human. Lead us. Jake took immediate charge, calmly organizing frightened Zoltrians into groups, assigning tasks to those able to assist. He quickly evaluated their resources and formulated a strategy. Though initially skeptical, the Zoltrians gradually followed. Jake's clear, direct orders. Hours passed, filled with tension and fear, but slowly replaced by a sense of unity and determination. Under Jake's guidance, defenses were prepared, plans were set, and a sense of cautious hope emerged. As evening fell, Jake stood looking out toward the looming Varkan fleet, aware of the monumental challenge ahead. Beside him stood Kira, a young Zoltrian who had volunteered early, showing uncommon bravery among her people. Do you think we have a chance? She asked softly, uncertainty clear in her voice. Jake smiled reassuringly, nodding firmly. Together, we always have a chance. Kira returned his smile, drawing strength from his steady presence. Jake glanced back at the assembled Zoltrians, now prepared to stand and fight, no longer laughing or mocking. In their eyes, he saw newfound respect and trust. Taking a deep breath, Jake prepared himself, knowing the real fight was about to begin.